Hello, I'm Haley Hennehan with Littlesleepersanddreamers.com, and I am your pediatric sleep consultant. Today's video is going to be a little different than normal. I'm going to be interviewing Ashley Becker-Nunley. Ashley helps families overcome the challenges they face with their kids to become a stronger, more connected, and joyful family. She believes that occupational therapists can create transformational change in the lives of families and help parents to better understand their child and deepen their relationships. She has 20 years experience in the education space and 10 years experience as a pediatric occupational therapist with special education. She has also been certified as a yoga instructor for 15 years with 10 years experience as a meditation and mindfulness coach. She specializes working with children with emotional, behavioral, and learning challenges, such as ADD and ADHD, sensory processing difficulties, anxiety, and behavioral or emotional disorders. She loves helping parents navigate their kids' challenging behaviors so that they can feel more calm and connected as a family. I hope you enjoy this interview. All right, so Ashley, let's get started. All right, so my first question is, how did you get into becoming a parenting coach? What made you choose this field?
So it actually goes way back to my childhood. Around 6 years of age, my parents were involved with the Special Olympics. Are you familiar with the Special Olympics?
I am.
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
large organization and it's worldwide. And they were avid volunteers, always wanting to help out in the community in any way. And so around 6 years of age, this is the time when we start to form memories. And so it was very impressionable to me. My parents decided to become coaches to a softball team for adults with disabilities. And various disabilities, children or adults with Down syndrome, with cerebral palsy, mobility challenges. So just a variety of disabilities. And anyway, I would pal around and help by collecting the balls, the outfield balls, and just help my parents run the coaching sessions smoother. And I remember just being so struck by those relationships that were formed, not only within the team, but also my parents in the team. And we would randomly, Haley, this is really fun. When the season was over, my parents formed such strong bonds with the players that we would almost daily knocks on the door from members just coming over or team players coming over wanting to hang out with my parents to continue on that relationship. And so we were always having the team players come and drop by and say hello. And we had dinner once. A married couple with Down syndrome invited us over for a spaghetti dinner, and that was really sweet. It was at their apartment. They were living independent housing, though they would have someone come and visit daily to make sure that all was well and safe. But that started for me that path of wanting to help. And then I continued on following my parents' footsteps by helping out all through middle school and high school. I was a teacher's aide in the special education classroom. And then once I graduated from high school, just helped out in residential homes for adults living with disability, for girls with emotional behavioral disturbances, for young men living with schizophrenia. And I just really saw this desire to understand the human condition and why people do the things they do and wanting to learn about behaviors. Using my background as a yoga teacher and mindfulness practitioner, someone had said, oh, you should become an OT. And I didn't know what that was. I'm like, oh, well, what the heck's an OT? And I looked it up. And it was like me. It was perfect. And I thought, this is it. And so I wanted to continue my path working with kids because I resonate with that population quite a bit, just their playfulness, their sense of exploration, their, their positivity, seeing the world through their eyes was just so fun being able to work with them. And so that's how I became a pediatric occupational therapist. And when working with parents and kids, in the school system, I saw a gap where the kids would meet their goals in the school and do well and thrive in that specific environment. However, would go home to return to the home environment where there's chaos or unstructured time and kids just kind of floundering. And so we would see this regression when they would come back to school, especially after a break, this regression of behaviors, of performance skills, of how they're doing on all levels, right? And so then I thought, you know what? It's the parents that need help. It's the parents that need support. And so that's why I became a parenting coach using my background as a pediatric OT to help them understand their kids' behaviors so that they feel more confident in their parenting skills.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I used to be an elementary teacher, so I definitely did see exactly what you were talking about with those gaps of when they would go home and things like that. So
Yes, right. You get it. You saw it.
yeah,
That's why we do what we're doing to help out families, because we see what was happening in the classroom and then the struggles at home.
yeah, exactly. Great. So if a parent was to come to you with an issue, like what's your process? How do you help them?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a great question. Haley, what I like to do is ask a series of questions just to get to the cause of the behavior, because kids are not acting out just for the heck of it. They're not trying to be difficult. They're not
Right.
trying to go above and beyond to be a terrible or, a hassle.
Right.
They are just trying to figure out and make sense of their world. And so if we show up with a sense of curiosity and look at what's going on, then we can really get to the bottom of the issue. And so what I like to use is this model that I used and learned in occupational therapy. It's the person, the environment, and the occupation. So PEO. So occupation for children is how they spend their time. And they spend their time mostly in play. And so how do we make it playful? That's how they learn best, when we use play as the avenue for learning. So if there is a struggle, what I like to ask first is, where is this happening? What environment? Is it the school? Is it at home? Is it at the grocery store? Maybe it's all of the above. Maybe it's, outside at the park, maybe at a music event or a family gathering. Where is it happening? What time is it happening? Usually what leads up to the struggle, if it's a meltdown, what was the child doing just before they had the meltdown? So that gives me an idea of what the task was. Okay, so maybe the task was too demanding. Maybe the task was too easy. Maybe the task was boring and the child doesn't know how to communicate what they need in the moment, especially for toddlers and younger. They're still learning those language skills. And so that's why we see a lot of frustration and toddler temper tantrums, because they're still building that language. And then the person. So perhaps it's a teacher that they just really haven't established that rapport with yet. Or maybe it's a neighborhood kid that's giving them problems, bullying. Maybe it's a student in the class that's not very nice. Or maybe it's a friend that said something to them that hurt their feelings. So we look at who the person is in the environment itself, and the task at hand. And so that's how I get to get really specific on helping them problem solve. What are the lagging skills in that situation? Now, how can we bolster those lagging skills? How can we help that child feel confident? What can we do so that they feel a sense of success, so that child can feel more confident, so that child can begin to self-actualize, see themselves doing well? How can we help bolster all those skills? And those are the 3 questions I like to really dive deep into.
Nice. So piggybacking on that, what exact age range do you work with? Like, how low does it go? Like, do you work with babies, or do they have to be verbal?
Toddler, I would say from toddlerhood all the way up to out of the house teenagers.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
So when parents come to you, you've probably had lots and lots of parents over the years. Do you notice a trend of like the majority of parents that come to me have this one issue? Can you speak about that?
Yes, absolutely. And it has a lot to do with the times, what are the current events. And so the pandemic has caused a lot of stress for parents. And with that stress comes a lot of yelling, a lot of nagging, and parents feeling at a loss of why their kids aren't listening, why their kids are ignoring, why their kids are refusing. So we're seeing these increasing behaviors of what we would consider, problem behaviors. The thing is, though, is there's probably stress in the home because of the pandemic. We're all affected by this pandemic.
Oh, yeah.
So that causes stress and overwhelm. So the kids are picking up on that and they're feeling that. So they're probably overstimulated. The kids are overwhelmed. So they just don't really hear, or they are unable to, decrease all the clutter in the environment to actually hear and understand what's being asked of them or what the request is. A lot of the time, maybe the children have not yet developed those verbal skills to understand. Kids will hear, but it's the whole Charlie Brown, too many words, too much talking. That's what parents do. We tend to talk too much. We make it overcomplicated. If we keep it simple, we say our words succinctly and just, to the point, then that's how we can get kids to listen. So what's happening is with that impact of stress, with that impact of overwhelm, with the frustration of the problem behaviors, a lot of parents are checking out and just feeling like, okay, here, just watch YouTube, or here, take the iPad, or here, this will help regulate my child because I just can't deal right now. So that is a result of the challenging behaviors. Parents are tired. So rather than working on on decreasing that problem behavior by getting curious and working out, whether it's the person, the task, or the environment, a lot of parents, and I'm not shaming anyone because I do this as well, but we do need to understand that habits can be formed. And so I'm hearing right now a lot of screen time battles. Parents are feeling guilty that they're putting their kids in front of the screen. They're feeling like they are using that as the babysitter, right? The modern day babysitter. Yeah. And that is probably one of the biggest challenges right now from the pandemic.
Gotcha. Very good. So you kind of touched on some things that parents are doing that might not be intentional, but leads to these problems with their kids. But is there anything else? I hate to use the word mistakes because I don't want, everyone's trying their best. But is there some mistakes that parents are doing, whether they are aware of it or not, that you notice?
Right. And so I'm going to go back to the previous question you just had about the behaviors, the problem behaviors, and a lot of it, with the nagging, the yelling, due to feeling like, your kid is ignoring you or refusing. So a lot of that is because we talk too much. We say too many words. The environment is overstimulating. You have to consider, are there a lot of devices on at once? Is the Chromebook on with YouTube videos? Is the parent at the table scrolling through their Instagram feed? Is the radio on? Is there music on in the background? Is there a lot of talking or discussing and other, conversations? That causes a lot of distractions, and it's hard to filter the noise. And so when we request our child hey, please make sure to pick up your toys. It's time to have dinner. If there's a lot of commotion and a lot of stimuli in the environment, the child really has to develop these listening skills to be able to clearly hear and comprehend what they're picking up. Now, because I specialize in working with kiddos with disabilities, I'm thinking, kiddos with auditory processing disorder, they especially have to have that pause, that moment to hear what's being said. Again, few words, very succinctly, to process that and then be able to do it. So there's the input of hearing it, to process it. The output is the result that they're supposed to do. But what parents don't understand is that there is that lag time. There is that time for kids to process. The younger they are, the more processing time they need. And so we immediately go to, I already told you, why aren't you listening to me? Why are you ignoring me? Why are you, I've asked you so many times. And that just builds up this frustration and then the habit of yelling. And it's just this vicious cycle that parents get into. So I encourage parents to consider the environment, to consider all the sensory information that's happening in that moment when you do need your child's attention. And so when you can really clear the clutter and make the environment simple and not noxious in terms of the stimuli, just very benign, then that will help the child be able to pick up and process the information. But you have to give them and allow them that time to process. Don't rush a kid. You don't have to rush them. You want to contain that relationship. That's what matters most, not, getting out the door to catch the bus. Yes, that is important. But you always have to remember, what is the purpose of all this? And the purpose is to retain that sense of connection with your child as much as possible. And so maybe that means that you just wake up a little bit earlier next time. Maybe that means you get prepared the night before, get the backpack ready, go through your checklist to make sure, does your child have their homework? Do they have their library books, their lunches? Do they have their coats, their scarves? Do they have everything? Go through that checklist, make sure that they check it, prepare them. So that way they can feel ready. And again, it takes away a lot of that clutter, that mental clutter.
This is awesome. I'm taking so many mental notes for kids. This is great. So I know you just did a workshop recently on meltdowns. So can you define what a meltdown is?
Sure, yeah. So this is a good question because a lot of people get confused with behavior meltdowns versus sensory meltdowns. And so oftentimes there's overlap, but they can also be two distinct behaviors. They can be two distinct types of meltdowns. So a behavior meltdown is one that you would more classify as a tantrum because there is a need behind it. There is a need of something that the child is wanting or seeking. Maybe that is parental attention. Maybe that's a toy. Maybe that is food. Maybe that is, something tangible. And that is the reason behind the tantrum. Now, and that's behavior led. Now, a sensory meltdown, it comes unexpectedly. Usually it's that, oh my goodness, what just happened? My child was seemingly fine. And then all of a sudden they're just blowing up. They're explosive. They're throwing themselves on the floor, kicking, and just, I can't even talk to them. That you have to consider maybe sensory involved. So maybe they are dysregulated. Maybe there's been too much screen time. Maybe they haven't been outside to move their bodies and, get their circulation, their blood going. So that helps them stay alert and focused. Maybe they are their clothing is bothering them. Maybe certain smells in the environment are really impacting them because they're kids who are sensitive to certain smells that sets them off, but they may not have the language skills to articulate, oh, that onion smells horrible, or oh, that garlic is horrible. And so instead they'll just lose it. And so it seems to come out of nowhere. And it's not that they're needing or wanting something tangible. So that's the difference between sensory-based meltdowns and behavior-based meltdowns, but oftentimes there is overlap. So there's a little bit of both.
Both. So my son is 2, so he's in the terrible 2s, and he just is starting these tantrums. And it's actually kind of cute because when he throws himself on the ground, he doesn't just like flop down. It's like very slowly laying down carefully on the ground, you know. But he's starting this. And so like, how would I go about helping him? Like the biggest one that we notice is when it's time to start his bedtime routine for bath, he wants me to do it instead of my husband, just because I'm home with him all day. He's more familiar with me. And so he has this meltdown. So we don't want to necessarily give in, but how do we help like that specific issue?
Right. Well, we would want to think about preventative strategies. So what if you have to go and all of a sudden, you know, you need to go run an errand. So you're not home for that routine. You're not home. Oh my goodness. So now your husband has to step in and do it. Oh my goodness. We're going to see a meltdown. So oftentimes when we come into that situation with that expectation, like, oh, great, it's going to all fall apart because dad's going to do the ending ceremony of getting ready for bed. And so, you know, my child's going to totally lose it. If we're walking on eggshells, the child will feel that. And so what we would want to do is condition, getting him ready to be able to do his nighttime routine with his dad. And so we would slowly build up that tolerance by having a little bit of exposure to that experience. So your husband could be part of the last couple of tasks. So how many steps are on the nighttime routine, would you say, Haley?
There's, let's see, 1, 2, about 4.
Okay. And so maybe what that would look like is you start the first 3 and he finishes with the 4th, the final step. Or have your child, your 2-year-old son, pick, and you could show like a visual schedule. And this is what I do for my parent clients when they work with me. I create schedules. Have your child pick, which one would you like to do with daddy? And then that way it gives him a sense of control. So he gets to choose. And that will usually when kids feel that sense of ownership, that sense of control, they feel empowered. And then that will help him be able to look forward to it rather than be surprised. Like, oh my gosh, wait, mom's supposed to be doing this. Oh, wait, what's going on here? Now I don't know. I'm confused. I don't like this. What's happening? Right?
Yeah.
And so instead, you do the first 3 and then your husband finishes with the last. And then maybe after a week of that, maybe the second week, you do the first, your husband does the second 2. And then maybe the week or 2 after that, you do the first, he does the last 3. And then slowly your child, your 2-year-old, will be used to it and it won't be a big deal. And so that way he's prepared for those situations that come unexpectedly, that you have to go and run to the store or you're not feeling well, because it's important that both can take care. Yeah. And that your child is comfortable with whomever that is. And that just takes building up that tolerance, that threshold.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it started with my husband and I, you know, we're like on the couch after dinner and I'll say, do you want to do bedtime or me? You know, and so Johnny overhears that now. And so then when he's like, oh, I'll do it. He's like, no, mommy, you know, because he knows that there's that choice that we're having the discussion. So do you feel like we shouldn't have that discussion in front of him? Or what do you recommend?
I would just come up with a schedule. So knowing who, so for example, in our home, we alternate. And so my husband will do the nighttime routine with my son one night, and then I'll do the other night. And so it's just, that's it. That's the plan. And that's what's expected. And so my son knows that, and he's aware of that plan. So there really isn't any sort of battle with the, that need for, you know, mom always doing it, or the guesswork of like, well, who is it tonight? Because kids want to know what's coming next. You know, the more sense of security we can give them and having that plan moving forward, then the more your child will feel secure around your husband at nighttime as well.
Right. Okay, great. So you kind of talked about, I was going to ask about how parents can help their kids through a meltdown. Do you have anything else to add, if it's not necessarily a tantrum at night, but maybe something else, how they can set their child up for success?
Yes. So first of all, again, with the prevention, you always have to think about why the child is having the meltdown. So figure out, again, when does it happen? So being the detective, the parent can be the detective and figure out, when does it happen? Because you'll notice a theme. Maybe it's around dinner time. Maybe it's at dinner time. Why? And then when the child, it becomes, in elementary school and they have those language skills, you can even ask them, begin asking them, why don't you want to go to school? Why don't you want to go to the dinner table? What is it about dinner that you don't like? And so asking those questions, so that way you can figure out and problem solve with your child. Well, what can we do so that you do want to come to the table, and giving them that choice, that that control again, so that they can come. But once you can determine where the struggle is, the time of day, where at, then I encourage having a schedule, because again, that gives a sense of predictability. And one of the main reasons why kids have meltdowns is because they don't know the expectation. They don't know the expected behavior. They don't how they're supposed to be in that environment, or they don't know what's coming next. So if you can just talk about it, hey, we're going to go to the grocery store. And when we're at the grocery store, I would like your help. Would you like to help me find the box of Cheerios, or would you like to help me find the pretzels in the chips aisle? And when we're there, I will let you, buy a pack of gum, or at this trip, we're not going to buy anything other than these, these 5 items. So letting them know what's expected. So when we get there, you can help, push the cart. That will be your job. How does that sound? Giving them a chore, giving them a responsibility. And then again, they will begin to understand, okay, when we're at the grocery store, I help. I get to lead the cart. I get to find, the pretzels. That is my job. And so when you lead with that, rather than, nope, no more candy in the moment, like, nope, I said no candy, stop, put it back, you need to put it away. All of a sudden it's like, because the child didn't know the expectation. They didn't understand what we're expected to do, how they're supposed to be in that place. So if you can have that discussion to prepare them, what's the expected behavior or behaviors, and what comes next. So, hey, we're going to go to the dentist tomorrow. A lot of the kids I work with, you have to give them even more of a warning. So let's read some books about visiting the dentist. This is what it's going to look like. Okay, so when we're at the dentist, we're going to go see Dr. Tom. And when we sit at Dr. Tom's chair, he's going to have these tools. And these tools will help keep your teeth clean and healthy. Let's talk about that. Here, I got this book. Shall we read it together? And so based on your child's age, developmental level, you can read an age-appropriate book with pictures to help prepare them for that experience, so that they feel prepared, so that they feel ready, and that they know how to be in that environment. So that really helps decrease meltdowns, because typically that's what leads to the meltdown.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's awesome. Very good. So we kind of talked about this a little bit, but if the meltdown is because bedtime routine is starting, just in general, what advice do you have for that when, it's, oh, pick up your toys and let's go to the bathroom? What can parents do in that situation?
If the child is refusing to clean up the toys, is that what you mean?
Yeah, just because it's bedtime routine starting.
Because they don't want to do the bedtime routine.
Yes, I don't want to do bedtime routine because then I have to go to bed. How can you help parents in that regard?
Yes, yeah, this is a great question. I get this a lot, bedtime routine, because kids love to play. They just want to stay up and have fun and keep playing with their toys. And so how can you make it fun and exciting? And again, you can create a visual schedule so your child can stay focused, knowing what they're supposed to do. And in that visual schedule, depending on their age, it could incorporate clean up toys. And it will have in your schedule, you can have a picture of what that would look like. Toys go in a basket, or, toys go in the closet. But I would definitely encourage having that be part of the routine, because what happens is when kids go to bed and they have all their toys laid out on the floor, that's going to keep them up. That's going to, encourage them to have these thoughts like, oh, I really want to get out of bed. I want to do this. And they're in their imagination, and they will get out of bed oftentimes and begin playing. And then that's where the meltdowns happen, because they don't want to go to bed. They want to play. So out of sight, out of mind, have that part of the routine. You can help them first and put on some fun music, something that, where you get to do it together at first, so that they're confident in doing it on their own soon enough. But also showing, another example is having a picture of before and after. So what the room looks like cluttered, right, with all the toys sprawled out, to the after, the picture of a clean room. So you can just show your child the picture of the clean room. Okay, so it's time to clean your room. Here is, and then that can just go on the visual schedule. Time to clean your room, and you can just put it on the Velcro strip, and then your child can use that as reference. Okay, so this is what it looks like. But certainly you want to keep it simple for the younger ones. And again, taking the toys, putting them up in the closet in a basket so they can't get to them. But making sure that there's something to look forward to. So ask them, what do you want to read? Do you want to read this book tonight, or do you want to read that book tonight? Would you like to have lavender essential oil, or would you like to have, ylang ylang essential oil? Or giving them opportunities to have something to look forward to, something that they get to choose, will help encourage them. I also encourage parents to put at least 2 hours of sleep on the schedule to help them wind down, because the body will automatically begin to start feeling, preparing itself to go to sleep. So when we shut off screens 2 hours before bed, especially for the younger ones, shut off screens, we start to, we take a bath, and then we get in our pajamas and we brush our teeth, and then we get cuddles and reread. The child will begin to wind down. And it automatically happens the more that child is in the habit of following those steps in that 1.5 to 2 hour process. And so I have clients who actually begin right after dinner at 6 o'clock. That's the nighttime routine. It begins and it goes until 8. But when the child is independent in those steps, because they have that visual, you don't have to be there all the time. You can just reference, and the onus is on the schedule. So it's not you nagging, reminding, and telling them, go to your chart. Well, what's next? Okay, we'll go to your chart. Oh, where are you on your chart? Show me. If you see your child off task and they're playing with the game or playing with their toys, oh, can you show me where you're at on your nighttime routine? I'm so looking forward to reading our book. Have you decided what we're going to read? So distract them away from the toy. You can take it and put it away when they show you the visual and where they're at, and then you can get back on and bring them back on task. Give them that hook, the hook.
Yeah,
That's a distraction. Like, okay, I can't wait to have our reading time. I'm so looking forward to hearing what you choose for tonight's reading.
Yeah, that's great. Very good. Yeah, I really love giving kids choices. That is also what I share with my clients when they do bedtime routine, choosing their pajamas, choosing stories, choosing songs.
So, yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, great. So when it comes to sleep, we want children to learn how to self-regulate so that they can become independent sleepers. So do you have a couple tips about that?
To regulate for sleep, it's interesting because a lot of parents who think that in order to wind down and go to bed, sometimes we actually have to encourage movement. And especially for kiddos with ADHD, kiddos with hyperactivity tend to need to move their bodies. And it seems counterintuitive, but a lot of kids actually need movement just before bed. So having them, a tickle fest, you could have a little tickle fest with them, and that gets them laughing and connecting with you and silly, and they're having fun. And they're also using a lot of muscles in their body, and they're getting their wiggles out. Because if kids are sedentary, especially those with ADHD who crave movement, who need movement for focus, for regulation, if we don't have that in their day, then that's when we see a lot of behaviors, because they're not allowing, they don't have that outlet to move their bodies. So I encourage parents to get outside, always get outside at least once every day, and incorporate movement as well. So every day, have your child move their body, go out for a walk, go for a bike ride, do an obstacle course inside the house if it's terrible weather outside. You could find fun little movement games do some yoga, some animal, movement breaks, but having them move, having them get outside, get some fresh air, using their senses, that encourages self-regulation. And when we can do those peppered throughout the day, we're going to see a more regulated child.
Awesome. Yeah, in my bedroom routine for my older toddlers and preschoolers, I do have 10 minutes of play where it's one-on-one with the parent putting them to bed without screens or any distractions, and having the child choose what they play. So whether it's something calm like a puzzle, or if they want to do horsey rides, or, like you said, tickle fest, whatever it is, to get those giggles out and to really help with the bond. So
yes, yeah, beautiful. That's a great one, Haley. Absolutely. And it's important to also have those one-on-one, special time with a parent every day as well.
Yeah, very good. So I could ask you questions for forever because I love picking your brain, but let's just end with one last one. So this is kind of the big one. So with sleep, I tell parents after 4 months, we need to ditch the pacifier because it aids broken sleep, and we want restorative, continual sleep all night long. So then I have parents that are like, well, if they suck their thumb, like how do we stop that? What can we do? And so they're hesitant to give up that pacifier that they can easily take away, throw away, for a thumb that is permanently attached. So what strategies would you give parents who are trying to stop thumb sucking?
Right. Well, Haley, this, my son was a thumb sucker and I was a thumb sucker. So it's genetic. And I had to work with my son on this because he stopped at a later age. Excuse me. And there are different approaches. I was going to say rule of thumb. There are different ideas and theories around this. I spoke with a Montessori educator once, and she was saying, well, that's okay. Let them at their own time. When they're ready, they will end. The thing is, though, is I literally have met adults that are still sucking. I think I shared this with you.
Yes.
It's a parent coach who still sucks her thumb. And it's fascinating to me that, we can see that as a coping mechanism, and it's a strategy for the child to regulate, right? So that could be fine. If it's fine for you, that could just be a coping mechanism. It's also something that changes the structure of the mouth. When you think about the impact of that habit, okay, because it's a habit, you need to break it eventually if it's doing harm. And the harm that's being done seems to outweigh having it continue and having that habit continue to form because of the maladaptive aspects. So for example, when one sucks their thumb, they're literally they're changing the structure of their jaw, their mouth, their breathing. What happens is it can lead to sleep apnea. It can lead to breathing problems, tongue thrust, low tone in the mouth, which then impacts eating behaviors. And we see a lot of kids with eating challenges where they tend to drool more than usual than other kids when compared to other kids, or they may have food around their mouth completely unaware that there's food left on their mouth. They don't have that sensory awareness. So instead of thinking this is a coping strategy, because we have healthy coping strategies and we have unhealthy coping strategies, because it changes the physiology of the body, I would encourage parents to find a replacement. So a healthier functional replacement, rather than using the thumb, especially around 2 years of age. Kiddos are in that stage where they're gaining information orally. So they put everything to the mouth. Babies, right? They're always, babies up to toddlerhood, they're always mouthing toys, they're mouthing their hands, they're always sticking things in their mouth to explore their senses and their environment. So I would encourage parents, and this is as an occupational therapist, we do a lot of feeding therapy. I use this actually when working with parents that do struggle with ditching the pacifier, with ditching thumb sucking. So finding foods that are crunchy, that wake up the oral motor muscles, because there is this need to orally fixate. So what can we do that is more functional throughout the day? Replacing it by eating pretzels, by eating fruit leather strips, by eating, we were talking about this before, healthy suckers. There's at the natural food stores. I think you had actually.
I just ordered them for my son. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that gives the oral input that the child craves. They're craving something in their mouth. Instead of the thumb, what is something that we can allow for? Incorporating this in snacks, and I encourage, structured meal time, so 6 meals throughout the day. But in snacks, give lots of crunchy foods or sucking foods. Sucking foods like, like the healthy suckers I just said. Or another idea is water bottles with the spout or the straw that they have to suck, right? That again also builds up the muscles, the oral motor muscles. It brings awareness to the mouth. It gives them that input. Other strategies is, especially for the younger kids during the daytime, having Choulery. And Choulery is just the safe plastic material. It's paraben free. It's for putting in the mouth for younger kiddos. So instead of the thumb, you can direct your child using that Choulery. And it's just either beads or a bead it's a necklace that the child can put in their mouth and chew on it and suck on it. Now, as the child gets older, that might look a little odd, so we have to think about starting young, developing these new functional habits. So starting young, using the Choulery during the daytime, and a lot of, other activities like chewy foods, bagels, crunchy foods during snack time, and giving them throughout the day. That way they won't be craving the thumb. When they do put their thumb in the mouth, then just give that awareness. Remind them, oh, I see your thumb in your mouth. No, it's not time right now. And so you're starting to decrease the amount of time and slowly fading out the habit of thumb sucking. So maybe you just isolate thumb sucking to only nighttime. And then eventually it's no longer at nighttime because you've slowly decreased that habit during the day by giving oral input throughout the day. And excuse me. And so also in these situations, using external rewards can be helpful as well. Have a sticker chart, so that way when the child starts to decrease thumb sucking behaviors, praise them, give them a lot of encouragement, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. It's been a week, or oh my gosh, you were able to go all day without sucking your thumb. That is so amazing. Let's put a sticker on our chart and let's see how many stickers we have so far. And maybe they build up to something fun, like an event or an activity or special time. It doesn't have to be something big, but definitely lots of encouragement, lots of awareness of when they have their thumb in their mouth and when they don't have their thumb in the mouth. Like, wow, I noticed that you haven't been sucking your thumb as much. That is amazing. I see that you're doing it less and less. And that's, just reminding them also of how it does change the biology of the body, especially for those that are older.
Right.
That's a lot. And I don't know if that makes sense.
So helpful. Thank you so much. All right. So if anyone wants to find you, where can they find you?
Yes. So I have a website that people can go and look at my coaching offer, and it's also a lot of free resources there. I have PDFs that people can print out, parents, if you guys want help with screen time balance, with strategies to stop yelling, with 25 occupational therapy based activities to get your kids moving. If you're short on ideas and don't know how to get your kids doing fun things, playful activities, and they're complaining of being bored, all of that is in my free resources. So go there, print out those freebies. It's www.joyfulmamamentor.com. And then I also have that fabulous Facebook group. I love it. That is where I spend a lot of my time giving free lessons and lots of free resources to that community. And it's Joyful Mama Mentor community on Facebook. Awesome. It's a Facebook group. Yeah.
I'll make sure to add that to the description box below. So if they didn't catch it while you were saying it, they can check it out there as well. So
great. Thank you, Haley.
Thank you so much, Ashley. This was very helpful, and I'm sure it is very helpful to a lot of people watching as well.
Wonderful. Happy to help. It's been a lot of fun, Haley. Thank you so much.
All right. See you. Bye.
Bye.